Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today's video dives deep into a shocking and fast-moving development shaking Eastern Europe, the reported rebellion of Belarusian generals against President Alexander Lukashenko. This sudden defiance within the Belarusian military is sending shockwaves across the region, forcing Russian President Vladimir Putin to respond rapidly as his most loyal ally faces a possible collapse from within. The story unfolding right now is one of betrayal, fear, and the desperate struggle for power at the heart of one of Europe's last dictatorships. For years, Lukashenko has ruled Belarus with an iron fist, crushing protests, silencing critics, and ensuring total loyalty from his military commanders. Yet the situation appears to have changed dramatically. Reports from inside Minsk suggest that several top military generals have turned against him, accusing his leadership of dragging Belarus into a conflict that the people never wanted: the war in Ukraine. These officers, some of whom once stood proudly beside Lukashenko, are now allegedly demanding political reform and distancing themselves from Moscow's control. The sense of rebellion brewing within the Belarusian armed forces has raised the possibility of a civil conflict, or even a split within the government. Sources close to the Belarusian Defense Ministry claim that tensions began rising weeks ago when Lukashenko ordered additional troops to be sent near the Ukrainian border under Russian command. Many officers saw this as the final straw, a direct sign that Belarus was being used as a puppet state by the Kremlin. The decision, according to insiders, triggered secret meetings among senior military figures who began discussing ways to resist the president's orders without directly confronting Russian forces. Their main argument was that Belarus should not sacrifice its sovereignty just to serve Moscow's geopolitical ambitions. As these discussions intensified, Lukashenko's intelligence service reportedly caught wind of the conspiracy. The president, known for his paranoia and reliance on brutal security tactics, responded swiftly by placing several generals under surveillance and detaining a few mid-level officers suspected of plotting against him. But the arrests may have come too late. The rebellion, small at first, began spreading through the ranks as soldiers questioned whether they were fighting for their country or for Russia's interests. In response to the growing instability, Putin's government wasted no time. Russian security forces and intelligence operatives were reportedly deployed to Minsk in an attempt to help Lukashenko restore order. Kremlin spokespersons quickly denied that any rebellion was underway, calling the reports Western disinformation. But behind the scenes, the tone in Moscow was one of alarm. Russia cannot afford to lose Belarus. It is one of the few neighboring states still firmly in its orbit, a critical buffer zone between Russia and NATO territory. If Lukashenko falls or loses control of his army, the consequences for Putin's regional power could be disastrous. Meanwhile, Belarusian citizens have been watching this drama unfold with a mix of fear and hope. Many remember the massive 2020 protests that erupted after the disputed presidential election, when Lukashenko claimed victory despite overwhelming evidence of fraud. Back then, the military remained loyal and helped suppress the uprising. But now, with generals themselves turning against him, the balance of power appears to be shifting. Protest groups that went underground after 2020 are reportedly resurfacing, encouraged by the signs of division within the regime. Some are calling this the second wave of Belarus's revolution, one that could finally end decades of dictatorship. Analysts believe that Putin's reaction will determine how far this crisis goes. If he fully backs Lukashenko with Russian troops, Belarus could effectively lose whatever remains of its independence. Moscow would likely take direct control of the country's military and security forces under the pretext of stabilization. However, that move would risk igniting widespread unrest and international condemnation. On the other hand, if Putin distances himself from Lukashenko, It could signal that the Kremlin is preparing for a leadership change in Minsk, possibly replacing him with someone more controllable yet less toxic to the Belarusian public. The West, particularly NATO and the European Union, is watching these developments closely. There are concerns that instability in Belarus could spill across borders, especially into Poland and Lithuania, where NATO troops are stationed. Western leaders have so far refrained from direct involvement, but intelligence reports suggest they are quietly supporting opposition groups and encouraging dialogue among disillusioned Belarusian officers. The goal appears to be avoiding a full-scale military confrontation while letting Lukashenko's regime collapse under its own internal pressure. At the same time, the information war is raging. Russian media is portraying the alleged rebellion as a Western-backed coup attempt, accusing the CIA and European intelligence agencies of manipulating Belarusian officers. Meanwhile, Belarusian independent outlets, many of them operating in exile, are reporting a very different story. One of patriotic soldiers standing up for their nation's sovereignty and refusing to be used as tools in Russia's imperial ambitions. The truth likely lies somewhere in between, but what's clear is that the cracks within the regime are deeper than ever. In recent days, several videos have surfaced online claiming to show Belarusian troops refusing orders or declaring neutrality in the conflict with Ukraine. While the authenticity of these clips is difficult to verify, their symbolism is powerful. The image of soldiers defying commands from Minsk suggests a loss of control that Lukashenko cannot easily repair. If the military no longer obeys him, his grip on power could crumble within weeks. And for Putin, that could mean facing a second front of instability, just as Russia's own military struggles to maintain momentum in Ukraine. What happens next depends on a few critical factors: whether the rebellion gains broader support within the military, how quickly Putin decides to intervene, and whether the Belarusian people seize this moment to rise again. If the generals can unite around a single cause, protecting Belarus's sovereignty, they might force Lukashenko to step down or negotiate a transition. But if the rebellion fractures, it could lead to violent purges, martial law, and deeper Russian involvement. The situation remains fluid, unpredictable, and extremely dangerous. Belarus stands at a crossroads, one path leading toward freedom and national independence, the other toward deeper submission to Moscow's control. For now, both Lukashenko and Putin appear determined to crush the dissent, but the very fact that high-ranking generals are rebelling shows how much the ground has shifted beneath them. This is not just another protest or political crisis. It could be the beginning of the end for one of Europe's most enduring autocracies. The world is watching closely as Belarus faces its most defining moment in decades. Will the people and the military succeed in breaking free from dictatorship, or will the combined power of Lukashenko and Putin silence them once again? Only time will tell, but one thing is certain: the balance of power in Eastern Europe is changing faster than anyone expected. Thank you all for watching till the end. Make sure to stay tuned as we continue to follow this dramatic story and bring you the latest updates on the situation in Belarus and the wider region. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more in-depth analysis of the world's most critical geopolitical events.